After 40 years of salt air and weather on the rose window, which is actually now at the back, the leaks around the window were no longer repairable. And so they decided, you know what, we're going to move the rose window to the back where it is now, and we're going to move the Christ window to where it is now. And you say, move? It was somewhere else. Yes, the Christ window is actually at the foot of the stairs. And you're like, well, how did it fit? Well, these extra panels were added when the Christ window was moved. So it used to be just the Christ that you see there in the center that was at the balcony there. It was moved here, and these other panels were added as they began to move things around. In that same decade, Church by the Sea had many choirs, and they decided to go to Austria for 12 days. They sang Mozart music with the Franciscan Cloister Church Choir and gave concerts in the ghettos of Budapest, Hungary. In April of 1991, Dr. John E. Pickens, Jr. retired after serving 30 years at Church by the Sea. The associate pastor, Reverend Leon Hermes, served until 1994. In 1994, the year of our 50th anniversary of the founding of Church by the Sea, the church was without a full-time minister. Reverend Robbins Ralph returned to preach the anniversary Sunday, and Bless This Church was sung once again. This was sung a few weeks ago here in our congregation. What they found was, towards the mid-90s, there were many problems occurring in the church. They were without a full-time minister. They were experiencing roof leaks, which I think is a periodic thing because we're facing some of those same challenges this year. And they were wondering, what is God going to do next? They sold some of their property. They were working on getting this thing together. And really the turning point was when somebody said, we need to stop and we need to pray. We need to trust in the Lord. And somebody on the search committee said, God help us, we need a shepherd. And finally, prayers were answered, and a candidate was found, Dr. Armin Weller, who some in this room may have even been blessed by. He answered the call to serve at Church by the Sea and served until 2011. But what's interesting about this is that moment where somebody said, God help us. We need a shepherd. It was this full reliance of God. Similar to what Bruce was talking about with the auction, that we were totally reliant on him, that he showed up to provide the things that we had for the auction. In Matthew 9, it says that he said to his disciples, Matthew chapter 9, verse 37, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. You know, there were a lot of prayers that went into the auction. There's a lot of things we want to accomplish through discipleship this year and our small groups ministry, and there's some vacancies there. And this, to me, just reminds me, well, then we need to stop and pray. If there's a ministry need and there's things that we believe God is calling us to do, if he's calling us to do them, he's going to provide and make a way for us. And so if there's something we can learn from the 90s and from those who have gone before us, it's that sometimes we need to stop and pray. In fact, most of the time we need to start and pray. God help us. We need a shepherd. And so that's something we can glean from that decade.